Hi everyone, welcome to my little corner of the internet. I just finished watching the season finale. How do you say it? I don't know. Whichever it is. The last episode of season 1 of the Rings of Power, and I thought I'd just, share my thoughts. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. I first have to make a small disclaimer, and that is that I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love the movies, but I only read like 2 chapters from the books and listened to the audiobook of The Hobbit once. I love the original movies and I think they are beautiful, like truly stunning. They are breathtaking and immersive and just a masterclass of fantasy storytelling. I really do think that. And I don't think there is any arguing about that. I think that is pretty well agreed upon. I make this disclaimer so that you don't have to, come after me regarding lore and whatnot, because the only thing I know are the movies. So I'm a casual viewer, I'm a casual fan, and I hope you will treat my thoughts as such. And if there's anything I'm getting wrong, or you're like, but actually this is leading up to, or this was in this book, or the Silmarillion, or whatever, I'm sorry, I don't really care. Because I think most people that will watch this show will be closer to me in their perspective than they would be of like a huge Tolkien fan that knows everything, So my baseline is most likely the average baseline. Okay, now that that is out of the way, let's talk about it. It's relatively spoiler free. I'm not going to delve deep into the plot points and everything that's happening, just my overall thoughts about the season. All right. So what are my overall thoughts? Well, in one word, meh. I think the show is very much style over substance, but even the style fails a lot of times. Like, it doesn't look like $500 million worth of show. I've heard a lot of people are like, oh, you can see the money on the screen. I'm not so sure. Because, well, it is very shiny. I don't think there's any arguing about that. Some visuals are really stunning, but they look like they'll be stunning for a poster or like a screensaver, but they don't look or feel real. They're too shiny. They're too slick, This is what the original trilogy did so well. Everything was very grounded and it felt really tangible. It felt like you could live in it, you could see it, you could feel it, because it was real. It was New Zealand. They built Hobbiton. They built these places, and so you could really, really immerse yourself in it. But here, a lot of the places, even if they were built, which I'm sure they did, because I read that they did some forced perspective in terms of like, the Hobbit-like people and stuff, as opposed to superimposing CGI stuff. It felt too shiny. That's the only way I can describe it. It didn't feel like I could be put in there and feel like it was around me. But my other issue with the show was the spread of the story. There are so many characters to follow from the very first episode. It made it really hard to connect and care for any of them. And yeah, until the very end, the only character I actually had some care for, like that I have interest in, was Galadriel. But even then, like, we know where Galadriel ends up, right? She's in Lord of the Rings. So any threat to her, any danger that she was in, I wasn't immersed in it. I was like, well, I know she'll survive, right? Like, we all know she survives. And while it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in her story, like, I'm not worried for her. There we go. I'm not worried for her. I'm interested to see how she got from point A to point B, but you can't design an episode entirely around her danger, because I'm not going to be like, oh my god, is she going to be okay? I know she's going to be okay. So I don't care in that sense. So we have Galadriel's story, which is truly like the main story. And I think it would have worked better if we would just follow her, right? Follow her story and then meet characters along the way that interact with her. But that's not really what happened, right? We had her story, but then in the same episode, right, there were like 12 different stories. So we had the humans in the story, for example. So we had the Middle Earth people and we had the Numenor people. And neither was all that interesting, really. And their own stories at the end of the day didn't really matter, right? They're just pawns for other characters in the story. And so they actually, like, eventually even disappear from the story altogether. And if you just focused on the ones that mattered, it would have been a little more streamlined. When I think about it, I think about like the first season of Game of Thrones, for example. I know we're not talking about the last one, the first one, the one everybody loved. And you see that even though Game of Thrones ended up with like 12 million characters, it didn't start that way. It started with two storylines. We had the Starks with the Lannisters, and we had Daenerys. And that was it, right? And the way we met the Lannisters wasn't in King's Landing. They came to the north, right? So everybody almost was in the same place. So you felt connected to everybody. You knew who to love, you knew who to hate. It was very easy, really. But here, everybody is disconnected all the time, and the overlap is so minimal. It's not worth it. Many of the plots don't even interact until the very end. So it doesn't even feel like a fun Love Actually type of thing when you'd be like, ooh, actually everybody was connected somehow, right? So we had the humans that we don't care about. And then we had the quasi-hobbits. I forgot the name of the actual species. That feels oddly racist. But you know, the tiny people. And their story was so boring. I mean, it was really like, who cares? They have this man that fell from the stars and like nothing happened. And the entire like wrap up of the story is so fan servicey that you're like, really? That's it? Okay. And then we have the dwarves who are just dwarving, and they seem like they have an important plot point, but ultimately nothing happens with them and they also disappear. So many characters and locations that are just Lord of the Rings fan service, right? It's so that fans can go, ooh, I know that name, or I know that place. They said the place. They said the place. It's classic prequelitis. It doesn't actually do anything to anyone anymore. Like, we don't care. Fantastic Beasts did the same thing. It's when everything is always connected to the same core. Star Wars did the same thing. Like, expand. Just let it breathe. Not everybody has to be so incestuous, really. Finally, the thing that was just like eye-rolling to the max is just like the 1 million Saurons. It feels like the Spider-Man meme, you know? Every other character is thought to be Sauron at some point. It makes a few characters in the show that were meant to be menacing and mysterious ultimately mean absolutely nothing. It's just odd. Like, they were just there, like, they were prominent in the trailer. They did nothing. Well, the show did grab my attention enough that I did watch the whole thing. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. I wasn't looking forward to seeing it. I wasn't waiting for Friday. Unlike House of the Dragon, for example, where I'm every week I'm like, okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I want it. I want it. You know, I put it on. I did my crochet project at the same time. I watch it, and it was very casual viewing. It wasn't something that was really immersed in at any point. Completely ambivalent towards all of the characters. A character dies, and I'm like, aw. That is not how I usually react to character deaths of characters I care about. You know, it's not how you should react at all to character deaths, right? Like, you should have some sort of reaction. But yeah, ultimately, will I watch season 2? Probably. But that's because I'm weak and I like shiny things. Like, even if it's cheap shiny, I'll probably watch it because it's connected somehow to something I already know. And that is very pathetic of me, I know. But can I recommend it to people, or will I? Probably not. Like, if you skip it, I don't think your life would be better for it, but it definitely won't be worse off. You know, it's go watch something you actually like. But yeah, that's my wrap up of this season. Ultimately, it was just kind of a meh for me. Like I said, it's unfortunate that that's the reaction, especially considering how much money they put into it. It's so wasteful. Could have used it for, paying your employees, Amazon, just saying. But yeah, how about you? What did you think of The Rings of Power? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What did you like? What did you dislike? Let me know. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you around. Toodles!